Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome. Let's call to order this hearing of the Assessment Appeals Board for January 14th, 2019. Happy New Year. We'll start with a roll call.
Board Member Crow.
Present.
Board Member Curtis.
Present.
Board Member Stern.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay, next we'll go to the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would all stand, and if you intend to provide testimony today, please remain standing, and we'll swear you in. Okay, ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing. I'll now place each of you under oath. When I complete reading your oath, please state I do. You and each of you do solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in the matters now pending before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. You may now be seated.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Vlahakis. And we'll go next to an agenda review. And for those who haven't been with us before, this is a chance to go through a number of items, and hopefully the board can approve those all at once in the in hopes of being expeditious. So go ahead, Mr. Vlahakis.
Item 5, agenda review for January 14th, 2019. The clerk of the board recommends approval of the agenda review. The agenda review consists of the following agenda items. Starting with item number 19, application number 17-10874, applicant Hualing California Properties Incorporated, continue to March 4th, 2019, pending receipt of an original stipulation. Item number 20, application number 17-11108, applicant Hualing Nurseries Oxnard Incorporated, removed from the agenda due to the submission of a withdrawal. Item number 21, application number 17-11034, applicant MSWP The Palms LLC, removed from the agenda due to submission of a withdrawal. Item number 23, application number 17-11115, applicant Bloom Energy 2009 PPA project, continue to March 4th, 2019, pending receipt of original stipulation. Item number 24, and so there's going to be different actions for 24 through 26. 24, application number 17-11483, Jet Alliance, David Crow, LLC. We're going to continue that to March 4th, 2019, pending receipt of original stipulation. And then items 25 and 26, application numbers 18-10393 and 18-10394, also for Jet Alliance, David Crow, LLC. We're going to remove those from the agenda due to the submission of a withdrawal. Item number 27, application number 18-10026, applicant Karina Lachuga, denied due to lack of appearance. Item number 30 through 33, application number 18-10129 through 18-10132, applicant James Herrera, denied due to lack of appearance. Item number 34, application number 18-10138, applicant Aviation Medicine Corporation, William Scott Jr., denied due to lack of appearance. Item number 35, application number 18-10140, applicant FV Aspiration Incorporated, Christine Lindblom, denied due to lack of appearance. Item number 38, application number 18-10173, applicant Jamie Mendoza, denied due to lack of appearance. Item number 40, application number 18-10366, applicant Martin A. and Diana E. Sandoval, denied due to lack of appearance. And items 43 through 52, application number 17-10931 through 17-10940, applicant CIT Finance LLC, removed from the agenda due to submission of a withdrawal. That completes the agenda review.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from the board on the agenda review? Okay, we'll look for a motion to approve.
So moved. I will second that motion.
Okay, moved by Mr. Curtis and seconded by Mr. Crow, and motion carries. We'll go next to public comment. This is time for anyone to comment on an item not on today's agenda. Okay, don't see anyone coming forward, so then we'll go next to board comment.
I have none.
Okay. So then we'll go through the remaining items on the agenda to determine the status of each and how then we'll move forward. And starting with item 8, application 16-11575. Applicant is Kirpal and Sukhbir Dhaliwal.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Cynthia Gonzalez appearing with Ms. Kirk. Yes. Can you say that again?
Sukhbir Dhaliwal.
Thank you. And we are asking for a continuance of 60 days. We realize that this is approaching the 2-year time period. But I think it'll take us probably about 45 days or so to be able to review the documents and properly help the client.
Okay, thank you. And any comments from the assessor?
Good morning, Brooke Hill representing the assessor's office.
Morning.
The assessor is actually prepared to move forward today, but we understand the client's situation and have no objection to a continuance.
Okay. Let's go to our clerk. Mr. Blahakis, do you have any suggested dates?
Yeah, first I've asked the applicant to submit a 2-year waiver due to the age of this application. Do you have that prepared?
Yes,
Thank you. So with that, and they've extended it out to April 30th of 2019. So we are all set there. So our available and suggested dates would be March 4th, 2019 or April 15th, 2019.
April 15th, please. Oh, I'm sorry. So March 4th. Okay, March 4th, please.
Okay, and thanks. Does March 4th work with the assessor?
That's fine.
Okay. Are there any questions, comments from the board?
And is there any request for proviso of data or anything like that? Assessor have everything they need?
Do we have everything? I apologize. I wasn't expecting to
It's
be here
okay.
today.
Hi, Andrea Rovtar with the Assessor's Office.
Mike?
If there's any new data that they want to provide, if I could get it within 30 days.
Okay.
Yes, we can provide that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Great. So then we'll look for a motion to continue to March 4th with the condition that any requested information is received by the assessor within 30 days of today? Is that, or 30 days before the hearing?
Preferably 30 days from today, so that would be what, February 13th, 14th?
Okay.
So moved? So moved. Second?
Okay, so Mr. Crowe moved, Mr. Curtis seconded. And so it sounded like February 15th was the specific date. Mr. Vlahakis, I don't know if you got that.
I think 30 days is February 13th. So
13th?
because that gives us 15, that's actually 19 days. You know, actually, it might be beneficial, maybe 30 days before, actually.
Okay, so 30 days before that March 4th date.
Yeah, so maybe
Okay.
February 4th, yeah.
Great,
Okay, thank you.
okay. Motion carries, thank you.
All right, sorry, just catching up with your board. All right, please vote. Thank you.
Okay, next up should be item 9, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, application 17-10347, applicant is San Miguel Produce. It looks like we have a,
There's been a stipulation submitted on this for you. It was provided in your packet, emailed to you on Friday. There was the first stipulation. It's also in front of you if you'd like to review it. Recommend action is to approve.
okay, this is one that we received Friday?
That's correct.
Okay. Would anyone like to review it again?
Yes, please.
See if I can find it. There you go.
Okay.
Any questions, comments from the board? Okay, so look for motion to approve.
So moved. I'll second that motion.
Okay, moved by Mr. Curtis, seconded by Mr. Crow, and motion carries. Next is item 10, application 17-10864, applicant ROIC California LLC.
Yes, I'm also recommending at this time your board take up the next item, items 11 through 18, also for the same applicant.
Okay, sounds good. Good morning.
Good morning. Kenton Trubel with Ryan LLC for the applicant.
Good morning, welcome back.
Thank you.
Prepared to move forward today?
Well, no, there's a number of issues.
Okay.
The applicant, the agent of record would like to request the board to allow a correction to the applications. There was a minor oversight. The applicant that we filed for is CVS Caremark as lessee of the property. ROIC is actually the lessor or the landlord. That's what appears as the assessee of record. But I think according to the clerk of the board, properly it should show CVS as lessee on the application, which if I understand correctly, if we make the request, the board has jurisdiction to allow it if they so choose. So that is the first request before the board. And then what we have before us is a change in corporate control that happened back in October of 2008. And the assessor worked it untimely, I think, because that's when it was discovered in November of 17. So we've created a new base year for October of 08 and then corrected annual values for all subsequent years. And they were all filed on. Today, I believe we're going to settle the base year to stipulation with the assessor. And then once the name of the applicant is corrected, the subsequent year Prop 8s would just be continued, waiting for the correction to happen, and then they'll be handled administratively. That's my understanding.
Okay. Any comments from the assessor?
It was also my understanding that we were stipulating on the base year. It sounds like if the board approves that amendment that the applicant's requesting, which the assessor has no objection to, then we'll need to create new stipulation paperwork, but we should have it by the end of the day.
Okay. Do you know when we say by the end of the day, what time we mean?
Well, I think Andrea can work on the paperwork, if you haven't already signed the stipulation.
I did not know.
As of now, he has not signed the stipulation. I think I was under the impression, I think you wanted to review it or something, because I think you had a question of.
Yeah, because I haven't seen it yet, so I should just out of prudence review it.
So maybe if we could trail this item?
Okay, Mr. Rovitar, the initial discussion that the amendment language was going to be included in the stipulation, did that make it in there?
It did. I basically just said that the parties stipulate to correct the name from ROIC to CVS Drugs Lessee, and that Ryan Agency is the agent for CVS Drugs Lessee, and that they are a duly authorized agent to sign on behalf for CVS.
What I would recommend is the board just approve, so in front of the board is a copy of the original application, which indicates the applicant name as ROIC Calif LLC. Attached is the authorization of agent showing the true applicant is CVS Caremark. Therefore, first we just recommend you approve the correction of the applicant name to CVS Caremark on all of these, just to make that part clean.
Okay. Any questions from the board on that issue? So we'll look for a motion to accept the request to amend the name of the applicant.
So moved. I will second that motion.
Okay, moved by Mr. Curtis, second by Mr. Crow. Motion carries.
Okay, so that part's taken care of. So is it your intent to have the stipulation approved today? Is that why you want to trail it? Or can we continue this matter and allow you guys time to work out the stipulation?
No. I don't object to a continuation, and then we can do it,
Fine.
through email and scan if that's okay.
Okay, so to continue, we have March 4th or April 15th available.
March 4th, if that works for the assessor.
Okay, so then we're looking for a motion, and unless there are any questions, a motion to continue to March 4th pending stipulation.
So moved. I will second that motion.
Okay, moved by Mr. Curtis, seconded by Mr. Crow, and motion carries.
Thank you very much.
And so that was for items 10 through 18.
That's correct.
Okay.
So Ms. Rovtar, just, if the stipulation gets redone again, the amendment doesn't need to be in there anymore, and that's been approved, but doesn't hurt if it's in there.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay, we should be at item 22, I think.
That's what I show.
Okay, application 17-11041, applicant is Mark McDonald.
Hi,
Morning.
good morning, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Excellent.
Great. Could you state your name for the record?
Sure, Mark McDonald?
Okay, welcome back, Mr. McDonald. Are you prepared to move forward today?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. Any comments from the assessor?
Yes, the assessor is prepared to move forward based on the information available to him. However, it does appear that there are some costs missing from the costs we had requested from the applicant. It's my understanding he's provided everything that he's willing to provide. Therefore, we're ready to move forward based on that.
Okay, so what we'll do is go through the remaining items on the agenda to determine the status, and we'll come back to you as soon as we can.
Sorry, just to clarify, Mr. McDonald, you will be requesting written findings of fact, is that correct?
Correct.
All right, so noted for council. Thank you.
Okay. I'm confused. What is it that they're waiting on? They're waiting on what? More cost
Oh,
information?
it sounds like there is information, Ms. Hill, from the,
Based on the costs that were provided, it appeared that there were significant things missing from those costs. We did prepare a report evaluation based on the information we were provided, so we're ready to move forward.
Okay, great, thanks.
great. Okay, next up is item 28, application 18-10060, applicant 5920 Melrose Avenue, LP.
No one has checked in for this item this morning. The tax agent did inform me that the taxpayer themselves would be attending this morning, but neither the tax agent or the applicant have checked in for this item. I guess, and they're not one of the people that informed me they were having traffic issues. So at this time, I would recommend denial due to lack of appearance.
Okay, any comments from the board?
I think during the weather conditions, we should trail this
Okay.
to the hearing.
Sounds good. So let's trail item 28 until later in the hearing. Thanks, Mr. Crow. And so then item 29, application 18-10126, applicant Canoga Drive LLC.
This is another case represented by Protex. They indicated that they would be withdrawing this application. They originally had over, I think, 50 applications on this agenda and withdrew all the others. I never got the paperwork, therefore the recommended action on this one is to deny due to lack of appearance. They did indicate they would not be showing up for it.
Okay. Any comments from the board?
They withdrew how many?
Around over 40. We put all their applications on today, so they had 40 plus applications scheduled for today originally, and withdrew them all last Thursday.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Okay. If there aren't any other questions, we'll look for a motion to deny due to lack of appearance.
So moved.
I will second that motion.
Okay, moved by Mr. Curtis, seconded by Mr. Crow, and motion carries.
Can we get one more vote on that?
Oh, Mr. Crow, will you vote on your, there you go.
Thank you. Oh, shoot. It went and then it disappeared. Hold on. All right. Sorry, that's been corrected for the record to show it passed 3-0.
Okay, next items 36 and 37, applications 18-10145 and 46. Applicant is David Shaw.
Good morning, I'm David Shaw.
Morning.
I live in 410 Santa Rosa, Montecito, and I've been storing my airplanes at Oxnard Airport for about 23 years now, and have a hangar there that I built that you guys eventually are gonna have. So I was assessed a penalty based on, and I have a good record of turning in these forms.
Let me just stop you right there for one sec. So it sounds like you're ready to move forward with discussion of your item today.
Yes, I am.
So
I have a map of where I live so that you can see that it was right in the middle of this terrible, a fire which came to within a half mile of our house, and then the floods, and I think everybody knows the rest of it. I brought a couple of
Right.
articles from the LA Times just to bring you up to date of anybody that isn't aware of what went on in Santa Barbara.
Sorry to hear that. Thank you.
I don't know whether you want to see this map of where I live.
Let's just wait 1 second, and you can give us all the info you have. I just want to hear comments from the assessor to see if they're ready to move forward with discussion of your item, and then we'll determine how to move forward.
Yes, the assessor is ready to move forward with a discussion on this item. I believe that the applicant does not have an issue with the valuation. The only issue at hand is the penalty. And based on the circumstances, the assessor has no objection to the board abating the penalty.
Okay.
We have no presentation, we just simply have no position on it other than we have no objection to you abating the penalty.
Okay, so let's just stop for 1 second. We can either hear this now, or we can go to the remaining few items and then come back to it. Any,
Makes sense that there's an agreement with both parties that go ahead and handle it right now.
okay,
Yeah, we can abate the penalty.
okay. So back to Mr. Shaw, is that, the assessor's comments sound correct to you, that the reason why you're
Absolutely,
here is related to abatement of the penalty?
Yes.
Okay. There any other questions from the board?
Real quick, how much is the valuation of your plane, roughly?
I think it's 600 on one of the airplanes. I'm not sure of the total. I did pay it, though. I paid the full penalty.
Okay.
I'll clarify, Mr. Curtis, that based on the applications, it's actually two aircrafts. One is just under $300,000 and one is just under $200,000. And the penalty is somewhere around 10% of that.
Okay. So moved on taking away the penalty.
I will second that motion.
Okay, moved by Mr. Curtis, seconded by Mr. Crowe. And so your request is granted.
Thank you.
That was easy.
You know, I don't hear well, so I.
Okay, so the board just took action to approve the abatement of the penalty,
I appreciate that.
and we're sorry for the losses that you've gone through.
I'm a Vietnam veteran, a combat photographer, and I've never seen anything, the devastation that I saw around me. I can tell you that, for people that haven't been to Santa Barbara.
Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Before you go, so I can get one more vote on that. Technically, your application still has open the issue of valuation. Would you like to withdraw proceeding with a challenge of the assessed value on these aircrafts for 2018?
No, I'm fine with where we are.
Okay,
I'd like to talk about the hangars later.
right, a separate part, but you withdraw
I do.
the remaining issues on the applications?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. You're all set now.
Okay, appreciate
you.
it.
All right. Next is item 39, I believe.
Yes.
Okay, application 18-10189. Applicant is Kenneth Hanscom.
This applicant, as you can see, they did not turn any confirmation of appearance, and when I spoke with them, they did acknowledge that. But then they were wanting to continue the case, but then informed me that they weren't going to be able to appear today. So it's in this weird limbo. Recommended action, though, is to deny due to lack of appearance.
Okay, any comments from the board? Okay, we'll look for a motion to deny due to lack of appearance.
So moved.
I will second that motion.
Moved by Mr. Curtis, seconded by Mr. Crowe, and motion carries. next, item 41, application 18-10385. Applicants are Tim and Nisha York.
There is no one checked in for this item this morning. This applicant has not been in contact with the clerk of the board to indicate what they wanted to do with their case. Therefore, I have no other information on this. Recommended action would be to deny due to lack of appearance.
Okay, any questions from the board? We'll look for a motion to deny due to lack of appearance.
So moved.
I will second.
Moved by Mr. Curtis, seconded by Mr. Crow, and motion carries. And next should be item 42,
That's what I got.
application 18-10389. Applicant is Mark Kohler.
This item, a stipulation was submitted last week. It is the second one of your packet that was provided by email on Friday. Recommended action is to approve the stipulation.
Okay, would anyone like to review the stipulation again, or?
Yes, please. Okay.
Okay, unless there are any questions, we'll look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, moved by Mr. Curtis, seconded by Mr. Crow, and motion carries. Okay, Mr. Blahakis, under findings of fact, would you like us to review those?
Yes, I'd recommend we just finish the remaining of the administrative agenda, and on findings of fact, we need a motion to receive and file those.
Okay, so under the findings, we have items 54 and 55, and these are findings of fact that we have all received via email, correct?
Correct. They've all been received by email and issued to the applicants.
Okay, so we're looking for a motion to accept and receive, is that correct?
Receive and file, just
Receive and file.
just noting for the public record that they were issued.
I'm making up my own legal terms. Okay.
So moved.
Second that motion.
Okay, moved by Mr. Curtis, seconded by Mr. Crow, and motion carries. So before we go back to our, I believe,
Sorry,
just one item, go ahead.
I say I recommend I've been informed some applicants would be looking to see if their stipulations were approved or not, so I recommend we hear item number 56 real quick.
Okay.
Unless the board needs more time to review the general stipulations.
Okay, so item 56 stipulations, which are, includes items 57 through 108. And if there are not any questions or comments, we'll look for a motion to approve.
One question, on the boats, if anything, excuse me, if anything is valued less than 10,000, it's taken off the roll.
Right, under the low value ordinance, real property with an assessment under $10,000 is actually assessed at 0. So we value it, but when we prepare the roll, we put the value down to 0.
Okay.
So when we stipulate on low value things, we make a comment on the form to let you know that it's exempt under the low value ordinance.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments on the stipulations?
Nope.
No,
Okay, we'll look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, moved by Mr. Curtis, seconded by Mr. Crow, and motion carries. So that brings us back to item, is it only,
We have item 22 for hearing, and then we trailed item number 28 to see if anyone appeared. So,
why don't we hear item 22 now, and then after that, we'll remember to address 28 to see if anyone shows up. Is that okay?
Take a little recess for a second.
Okay.
Sounds good.
And recess for 5 minutes, and then we'll proceed with Mr. McDonald. Okay, we're back in session, 10:15, hearing item 22 on the agenda, application 17-11041. Applicant is Mark McDonald. And This is an application that was continued from October 8th. Single-family home that is owner-occupied, I believe. Is that correct?
I think some clarification was needed on that. We had a discussion about it previously.
Okay.
Mr. McDonald, was this your primary residence on January 1st, 2017?
January 1st, it would have been, yes,
Of 2017?
correct.
Okay.
And it looks like the application is related to new construction. Is that right, Mr. Vlahakis?
That's correct. It's for construction in progress as of January 1st of 2017.
Okay.
That's the only item marked on the application.
Okay. Could we start with just a real quick overview of the application from the assessor, and then we'll determine how to move forward?
Sure.
Please.
So this is for parcel number 6850152095. It's a single-family property located at 288 Valley Gate Road in Simi Valley. And the issue at hand today is partially complete, new construction as of 1/1/17. The applicant was in the process at that time of adding 1,894 square feet to their single-family residence. It's the assessor's understanding, based on conversations with Mr. McDonald and his testimony for a different application, that he did not move into the property until February of 2017. So the assessor believes that the burden of proof would be on the applicant in this situation. And at this point, that's about all we have to say about this.
Okay, so then why don't we go ahead and start with the applicant's presentation, then the board and assessor will have a chance to ask questions, and then we'll do it the other way around. So whatever information you have that you'd like to submit now would be the time.
Okay, great. Here's 5 copies, and then Melinda already has one.
Okay, Mr. McDonald, whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Sure. So this, as you mentioned, this is as of the January 1st lien date of 2017. We'd started a remodel a couple of years earlier. Did a remodel, tracked all of our expenses, everything we put into it. Hired a general contractor, hired out all the contractors. We painted a few bedrooms ourselves, our kids' rooms ourselves. Everything's hired out as this top sheet shows, which is, I just have A written on the top of it. But essentially, the assessor came back and did a valuation, put a I forget the exact number now, but roughly $200,000 valuation on something that costs us $100,000 with a solar system on top, which is supposed to be exempt. And so they came back and they halved it, and then basically I'm going back to our original costs. We have a cost that we put into it of $65,000. The assessor came back originally and said, well, you need to include your permit fees and architectural fees and all this stuff, and they're all listed in this sheet. And we hired everything out. Got an architect, got a engineer, had a general contractor. They brought in most of the trades. We subbed out a couple of other trades. But all of our costs are in here, and so we're trying to get the valuation for the addition at what we put into it, with the solar system exempted.
Okay, and with, is there any other, from the information you gave to us, is there anything else you'd like to discuss?
I guess I'm a little bit confused on what the assessor says they're missing. I sent an email to Melinda and Christopher on the 11th. The longer email, but one of the questions was, I said, you're billing us for things we didn't do. Is there something you feel is missing on the expenses we submitted? So and I didn't get any response to that, and I'm just kind of confused as to what they feel we're missing that we didn't submit. Yeah.
Okay. Why don't-
Just to be clear, was it an existing house and you did an addition?
Correct.
Okay, so it was a one story and you added a second story?
Yeah, and that's a big, that's a big basis point or a big focal point of the addition that we did. We wanted to do a smaller addition, and they ended up, due to some of the underpinning and footings and everything else, they ended up making, the engineer actually recommended making the addition a little bit bigger so that we could use all of our existing footings and columns and everything else. It was about the simplest remodel you could ever do, is taking off the roof up one story on all existing footings and foundation and putting a roof and solar system back on top. So it was no rough plumbing, rough electrical, foundation work, footing, excavation, none of that applied to this project. It was relatively quick, the actual work that got done.
Okay, and then it was how many square feet when you started off?
It was 29, when we started off, 2916, I believe. The assessor probably has the exact, I can get the exact number, 2916.
And then you added 1,900?
Well, it was originally 1900, but like 400 of that came off because we didn't push the back of our house out. So it ended up being like 1494.
So you added 1,400?
Right. And you'll see, there's some pictures on the back of your packet I can show you in just a minute, but a lot of that was empty buffer space in the middle because we wanted a smaller addition. They ended up expanding it, and due to the load in the middle, there's just a giant open corridor in the middle. Like, you can't use it for anything. It's just open, unfinished space.
Sure. And you're saying your total costs were how much?
65, what is it? 65 to 63.
Okay, thank you.
And did you say that does or does not include the cost of permits and?
That includes everything, yeah. In fact, the first line item on there is David Reed for engineering and drawings, and then
okay.
City of Simi Valley is permitting fees.
Great.
I mean, literally every single, if I was in town and they asked me to go to the store and get a pack of screws, it's in here. Like, every single penny we put in this project is in here. And in the interest of saving trees, there's a little, I don't know if you see this, but there's a thing that says receipts and directory, and there's a check mark by all of them. So I just gave them a Dropbox link. That they have access to every single receipt, contract, invoice. Ran 1,000 pages for you guys.
Great, thank you. Okay, is there any other information you want to present?
I don't think so, not at this time.
You'll have a chance to follow up with a summary and question.
What did you say your total cost was?
65 to 63.
On a sheet here, it looks like $100,000.
Oh, it might be on the back side. The back side of sheet A.
Okay.
If you go to the back of that, the very last item on there. Should see $65,263.99. Are you seeing it?
Yeah, I see. Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Okay, are there any questions from the assessor to the applicant?
Thank you. It's working. Sorry about that. And Melinda DePoyen for the assessor. Mr. McDonald, good morning.
Good morning.
I have a question regarding the change. There were a number of changes in the original plan. And in addition, there were items added, or amended to the permit as
Right.
in 2016.
Right.
Do the costs you've provided include these additional charges for, making changes to the original plan and moving things around?
Yeah, it was actually a deletion.
Additional plan check fees with the Building and Safety Department?
Yeah, they didn't charge us for those. Those were, we made two additions. So one of them was strictly for solar, and one was to bring in the footings, to not push out. We were going to push out the back of the house like 3.5 feet, something along those lines, and didn't end up doing that after an engineer looked at it. It was going to be very, very costly because it was a post-tension slab and some other things. So we didn't push out the back, left it, and built it over the existing footings. But because it was post-tension slab, we didn't have to do footings and foundation work, et cetera.
All right, thank you.
Mr. McDonald, I had a question for you. I did go through all of the receipts you provided, and I do appreciate you submitting those. It looked like most of them were things that it looks like you really did make a lot of trips to Lowe's and Home Depot and other retailers to pick up the items that were needed for this project. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, they went there a lot, I'm sure. I don't know. Yeah, they went quite a few times.
And most of the receipts that I saw were either in your name or your wife's name?
Probably our credit card. I mean, they had a credit card that they could use for out-of-pocket expenses.
Okay. And can you specifically point out to me, I didn't see it on your sheet here, which of these expenses was for your general contractor?
That was in the labor section. Let me pull it out here real quick. It was a framing, so framing/finished carpentry labor, anywhere that's listed on there. So like, I don't know, line 7 was $7,000. It's throughout here a few times, but framing/finished carpentry labor. Josh Reuter Construction is the general contractor.
I'm sorry, who was the general contractor?
Josh Reuter.
Do you have any other questions? I think that's all the questions the assessor has.
Okay, are there any other questions from the board to the applicant?
Not at this time.
Okay, I just have a couple of questions.
Sure.
When you're talking about the general contractor, I heard you kind of mix that term with the framing contractor. So did you have a general who subbed out work
Yeah,
to others who you paid to sub work to others?
correct, yes. Yeah, so he did a lot of the framing work himself, but he also ran the job and took care of managing the other subs that were there.
Okay, great, thank you. Any other questions from the board? Okay, we'll go to the assessor's presentation.
Oh. Okay, we're flexible. Can I give it to you after?
As long as nothing changes from what.
Nothing will change.
Sorry.
Sorry about that.
Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Great, thank you. So as I mentioned earlier, this is specifically for an addition of 1,894 square feet. There was 301 square feet added to the first floor and 1,593 square feet added to the second floor. Within that project area, they added a full bath, and they brought the total living area from 2,720 square feet to a total of 4,614. So when we do these types of assessments, we have to segregate out the value for the new construction. And so as we do with all assessments, we have 3 approaches to value. For this type of assessment, where we're only looking at a portion of the property, the cost approach is typically the most applicable because that is where we have data. You don't often find homes with partially complete additions that are transferring. It's hard to segregate out the value in a market value. So we did consider this 90% complete as of 1/1/17 based on the building and safety inspections and the conversations with the applicant. We did look at the costs that were provided by the applicant, and we found that they exclude a number of significant cost components that the assessor is required to value. We didn't see anything related to drywall, engineering fees, and significant amounts of labor costs that we would be required to include in our valuation. So we didn't rely on the applicant's values because we found them to be insufficient. We found that based on the receipts provided, virtually every item was purchased by Mr. McDonald. It was delivered to Mr. McDonald or his wife. As he stated, he ran out to Lowe's several, many times, it looks like, based on the receipts he provided. So he did put in a significant amount of effort to complete this project, and so a lot of the costs are not accounted for. When we assess new construction via the cost approach, we have to include all those components. So we're looking at not just the direct costs, but we're also looking at the soft costs, the labor, the architecture, the engineering fees, insurance, things like that. And specifically in Revenue and Taxation Code 71, you can see that we are required to determine the value for any portion of the property that's been newly constructed. So in this case, it's a 90% complete addition. So with that, I'll let Ms. DePoyen go ahead and go through the valuation that we did, and we'll go from there.
Good morning again, Melinda DePoyen, the Ventura County Assessor. Now, we have used the LA Ventura County Residential Cost Guide, which is the guide that we use for the large majority of single-family residences in new construction within our county. And we do this based on the quality of the construction and the size. And so if you look down at the grid that I've provided here, you see class of add on the left. And I have chosen a 6.5 quality class because this is the minimum building standard today. So I think I've been very conservative. Actually, Mr. McDonald's, the quality of his original home is actually slightly higher, but I feel that with the size and after our discussions that this minimum standard is more than reasonable. And if you notice, following along to the right, that it doesn't go above 1,251 square feet for the addition size, and this is because this doesn't happen very often. It's not enough data for something this large. So what I did was to interpolate the cost. If you look at the highest that I have here, the 850 to 1,000 square feet at $1.09, and I just looked at the history. For every 200 square feet, the price per square foot declined around 5%, and so I did the math on that and adjusted that cost even further, down another 20%, just to account for those economies of scale in this very large addition, and what the additions were as well, the bedrooms. So I have also, after meeting with Mr. McDonald, and he was gracious enough to show me around, and I really felt that an adjustment for the foundation and the roof costs were appropriate for this being, the majority of it being on the second floor. It seemed reasonable to further adjust it for those components that it wasn't going to take. Anyway, so that brought my cost down another 15%. And we apply that to the 1,894 square feet and have a value of about $140,000. But this doesn't include the bathroom addition or the laundry room addition, which were brand new. So I've also pulled the costs from this cost guide for those items, added them to, or resulting in a cost of $156,406. And then we recognize that an addition on a brand-new home is different than an addition on an older home, and so we've depreciated that cost even further by the age of the original home. And so my grand total being $97,919, but we are only applying 90% of that. So the partially complete value via the cost approach is $88,000 as of the January 1st, 2017 meeting date. So if you, on the following pages, I've provided some photos. You can, exterior photos on pages 4 and 5, and some interior photos on page 6. And you will note that there's a difference between the second floor area that was remodeled and the second floor brand new area, and I've tried to differentiate that in the pictures just for you to look at. And then the next page, 7, is a copy of the permit for reference. Page 8 is the original floor plan, so you can see how extensive this addition is. Page 9 is the first floor plan, and page 10 is the second floor. All right, and that pretty much concludes.
I did just want to clarify one thing. On the permit that was provided, the patio cover was an amendment to the permit, and that was considered no start for January 1st, 2017. So no value was allocated to that.
Okay. Any other information you'd like to present?
Well, do we still?
I think so, yes. We'll give you 6 this time.
Sorry.
Sorry about that.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So in Assessor's Exhibit B, you'll see the first couple of pages is the accounting from the applicant of the different line item expenses that he incurred. And then we just wanted to provide a few sample invoices. The first one there is from Royal Plumbing, billed directly to Mark McDonald. You'll see that they did, I believe they roughed in the bathroom fixtures, and it specifies labor only. I believe the applicant purchased all of the materials for that. Same from Ellis Trust. You'll see that that proposal was submitted directly to Mark McDonald. Stock building supply. Mr. McDonald purchased significant amounts of lumber. And then the very last page is just we wanted to look through the receipts that we were provided to see what all was included. So this is our accounting of the receipts that we were provided. We did kind of break it down into 2 columns, the costs that we would consider, and then the non-assessable costs of the solar, which is excluded as new construction. And then there's just some comments on the side so you can see kind of what some of these things are for. When I was putting this together, I didn't add comments for every Home Depot and Lowe's receipt. It just looked like various plumbing and electrical supplies for the most part. That's what most of those are. But then some of these others, you'll see that there's some comments that might help you better understand what the costs were. The bottom line is, I think that's the last exhibit we have. The bottom line is that the assessor is required to value this based on what's typical in the marketplace. The costs incurred by Mr. McDonald were not typical, so we went to the Los Angeles Cost Guide and looked at what a typical homeowner would pay to construct this type of addition. We then took into account the fact that he already had a foundation, he already had a roof, so we took those components of the cost out. And then we further depreciated it to recognize that it is on, I believe, a 1986 home rather than a brand-new home. So there would be a value difference there. So beyond that, we're happy to answer any questions that the board may have, but we would request that the board sustain our value based on it being a typical and reasonable value for this type of construction. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go next to questions based on that presentation from the applicant to the assessor. So you'll also have a time, Mr. McDonald, at the end of the hearing just to summarize.
Oh, perfect.
I'd like to say, so this is time just for questions based on that testimony.
Okay, thank you. When you initially started, you had said there were no fees in our spreadsheet there for engineering or for drywall. But the very first fee on there with David Reith is engineering before the house was even started, $31.26. That was the engineering and drawings from Mr. Reith. And then
So if there's a question there, when I went through the receipts provided, I didn't see anything that indicated it was labor or materials for drywall. Perhaps there were. The bottom line is that a lot of these things, if you're purchasing them yourselves, then we're missing components of the cost. And so when we're missing components of the cost, the overall picture becomes unreliable. And that's when we have to do a check and we go out and look at our cost guides to see if this is reasonable. In this case, it was not. You reported $34 a square foot for new construction of a 1,894 square foot addition. That's not typical. So we went with what would be typical for a typical homeowner to go out and hire a contractor to add this square footage onto their residence.
Okay. To go along with that, I guess when you say 1,800, it actually ended up being 1,494 square feet, but so when Melinda was there on Friday, right? Friday? Thursday or Friday?
Tuesday.
Oh, that's right. I was emailing on Friday. On Tuesday, when she was there, in this addition area, I mean, it's what also is not typical is probably 800 square feet in the middle of the home that the big common hallway. It's actually in my, if you look at my pictures on, I think it's the last page, the ones that I sent. Addition hall, like the one that has G on it is addition hall. The hallways are just enormous because he couldn't engineer that out using the existing structure to support any bedrooms or living space or anything else. So the only reason they did that is A, to use the existing footings, and B, to support a larger roof to hold a bigger solar system. So the space, if you look at it, is the addition we did is for our 4 kids' bedrooms, and that's it. It's nothing fancy. It's 4 bedrooms, and basically it's an enormous loft in the middle that they couldn't structurally load anything with because it couldn't be converted into bedrooms. So there's no plumbing, electrical, very, very minor finish, it's just drywall. But going back to, sorry, let's try and find my notes here. Going back to the notes, so it said that there was no fees for engineering, which is in fact in there, the 3126, and there's an email that I forwarded to the assessor that has the outline of that engineering contract. And then she also mentioned that there's no drywall, but on 9/8/2014, like midway down the first sheet, the Excel sheet, there's a charge in there for drywall of $828. which I just went on Home Depot right now, and it works out to about 80 sheets of drywall, which actually seems like a lot to me for the area that was added. And then right below that, there's Edfield's drywall slash finish labor of $2,200 to finish the drywall. So both of those are in there, and if there's anything else missing, I guess that's my biggest frustration is I've asked numerous times what's missing. And all I keep getting is this guidebook number of 109, well, it ends up being $87 a square foot. But I'm asking what that is because I'm working from our costs. I know exactly what it costs us to the penny, and I'm trying to figure out what those costs are when they just come up with $87.22 a square foot. In fact, if you go on,
Mr. McDonald, let me just
Yeah.
interrupt you for 1 sec.
Sure.
You'll have time to summarize all of your information at the end.
Just
so-
questions for Jim?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess that's it, is I'm trying to find out what's missing. One of the other things that was mentioned is the items out to me. I own a business. I do a lot of stuff with contractors through a business as well. And it's very, very common in time and materials to give them an expense account and let them go do their running around so I don't have to be there going to Home Depot for them. So we did do that. We opened up a credit card, gave that to Josh, the contractor, and they did. He did all the running around. If a subcontractor needed something, in fact, in the invoice that you submitted in Exhibit, it's actually Exhibit B. Where is it? Exhibit B, on the one from Royal Plumbing that did all the plumbing work. How you mentioned it was labor only. The costs for the materials are in there, and Josh did pick those up. It has in here, it even has in here specifically about working with the contractor, that all the holes for the copper will be pre-drilled by the framing contractor, is marked, change orders, blah, 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 blah. So I don't know what this, I don't know what this means. I mean, I paid the contractor, absolutely.
Sure, if you have a question about that, it does say materials to be provided by homeowner on that Royal Plumbing invoice. So that's where we got that.
Where are you seeing that?
At
Oh,
the
by
end of
okay.
the paragraph that says labor only.
Sure, yep. Yeah, they had no idea. This was a quote we got when everything was closed up and the walls were sealed. They didn't know where anything was coming from. And so they said they couldn't give us an accurate quotation for services.
So this isn't the final invoice that
No,
you
this was.
actually
It ended
paid?
up being that. They wanted to exclude materials because they didn't know how far they were running it. So the contractor told them, we'll provide the materials.
Okay, did you have any other questions for us?
Yeah, Ellis Trust, that was something that the engineer was involved in. That was actually more so, if you look at the description, is all for solar on front top cords. This was related to the solar system, not so much the house remodel, beefing up the structural integrity of the roof to support the solar system. And that I did work with David Reith on to get the largest system we could get on that house. The rest of them, stock building, yeah, I opened an account. That was I think it was a net 60 or net 90-day account, and we get an invoice from them every so often, but they do all the orders. In fact, you can even see it was shipped to the job site. I don't think anything was stock they ever picked up. That was all shipped. That's giant stuff. That's an $8,000 order that was shipped directly to the job site. I'm not going to stock and Home Depot and Lowe's picking up all their stuff.
Any other questions?
Nope. I think that's it.
Any questions from the board to the assessor?
No. Sorry, I had one other thing I wanted to clarify. Sorry, is that okay?
Yeah, if it's a question.
I guess so.
Okay.
Well, no, I guess not. Don't worry about it.
Okay, well, make sure you remember that, and you'll have time to
Okay.
go over
I
what
think
you
I had to
want.
phrase it as a question, but I couldn't do
Well,
it.
just go ahead. Go ahead and let's get the info out and then we'll go from there. If you have-
I just wanted to point out that the house, it talks about how the existing house or a lot of it, we bought the house in '09, Somebody bought it in '09 and essentially redid the kitchen and a whole bunch of it, did a really nice job on the majority of the house. And then we bought it, I think, 6 months after them for another $100 or $150,000 higher. So a lot of the work that is in the existing house is, like she said, much, much nicer than adding 4 kids' bedrooms. They're very basic rooms.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the board to the assessor?
I have one question on the recommended value on summary page here. You're showing a valuation for $88,000 for the new construction. On page 13, here you have a value of $98,000.
Yes, sir. We considered the construction 90% completed as of January 17. Mr. McDonald has said that he actually moved in February of 17. And so that's the reason for that.
Okay.
Okay.
So the house is 4614 square feet right now?
Yes.
Okay. And so on the roll, you had the original new construction is 198,000?
That's true. It had originally been valued at 198.7, and so that is.
So you're lowering it to
So I am actually lowering it.
You're lowering it to 80,000?
Yes.
Yes, and I apologize. I did ask you to sustain the value. I meant to ask for you to sustain our recommended value, which is significantly lower than the initial assessment upon review for this appeal.
And the 88 is 90% of your
Yes.
valuation, right?
Yes. And does not include, just so that that value for the patio cover, that will need to be added as well, and possibly an outdoor outdoor kitchen.
Just to clarify, go ahead.
Oh, do you have any?
So I just wanted to clarify that on the square footage issue, I think I know the answer, but the applicant says 1,496 feet were added. The assessor says 1,894. I'll ask the assessor first. Do you think, is that related to the applicant's interpretation that part of it is not efficiently used, or?
Based on the plans and the permit that was submitted to us from Building and Safety, there was 301 square feet added to the first floor, and then the remainder was added to the second floor, 1,593 square feet on the second floor. So that was based on the plans he submitted to Building and Safety, which in turn get submitted to us. That's where those numbers came from. Maybe Ms. DeBoyne can clarify a little better.
Well, if I could just add, I followed up with Building and Safety just to verify that, whatever changes have occurred, to verify the square footage. The purpose of going over, the major purpose of going over to Mr. McDonald's house was to verify that the plans, that the general outline of both floors matched up, and it did. There were small differences in a bathroom that had been moved to a different place and a laundry moved there and things of that nature. But the overall living area matched up with the plans.
Okay, so same question for Mr. McDonald. How did you come up with the 1,496 versus the 1,894?
All I know is that there was like a 410-foot reduction from what we originally submitted to the city, because we didn't end up pushing out the back of the house. When we got a soil geologist there, and that David Reith got somebody out, and he said it was going to be at that time they determined it was a post-tension slab, and the costs were just going to go through the roof. So we said we're not doing this, and we kept it at the original on the original footings.
So is your square footage 4,614 square feet today?
I wish I knew that. I don't know. I would have to go through the house and literally measure it. I don't know. I remember when we started the addition, it was 1,800 square feet, and when we made the changes, it was 1,450, 300 to 400 square feet less than the original plan for the house.
Does that include there was a first floor addition as well?
Yeah, it's just like a corner extension of a room, yeah.
So your square footage includes that?
Right.
Did you doing the work yourself?
I painted the kids' bedrooms, and that's about it. I made a couple of trips to Home Depot, nowhere near what's on this list. I mean, if I was in town and I needed something. My wife got cancer, and we bought a house in Oregon, so I've been up there since 2016. And I mean, as she saw, it's just kind of sitting there. We're not living in it anymore, but we've been up there for treatment and just, yeah. I mean, I can show you I didn't bring it and print it out for you guys, but I can show you when we bought a house up there, and we've been up there ever since, dealing with that.
So is your primary occupation in construction or?
No, I do technology, computers.
Okay.
So back to the assessor's representatives, is it your understanding that what was added was the 1,894 versus a reduction?
Yes, our understanding is that 1,894 square feet was added. The applicant didn't provide us any information to the contrary, so we had to go with the best available information, which was what was provided to us, 1,894 square feet. When Ms. DePoyen went out there, it appeared that it was built according to plans, except that the interior moved a little bit. They put a bathroom instead of here, they put it over there. But as far as the footprint of what we're looking at, it was what was on the original plans. So if he wanted us to consider something else, we would have needed those amendments. And that would have been in our initial 441D request, but we didn't receive any information to that effect.
Okay, thank you.
I do, after hearing his answers, I have a couple of questions for him, if that's okay.
Sure.
My first question is, I'm a little confused. Do you actually live in Oregon now?
Yeah,
Okay, so you don't live in this house?
not now. I did in late 16, early 17, through the middle of 17, and then we bought a house there in March of 17.
Okay. And, my other question is, never mind. That's all.
Okay. Let's see. Any other questions from the board?
I have none.
Okay, so then let's go forward with closing summaries. We'll start with the assessor and end with the applicant.
Well, I guess as far as we're concerned, we would just ask that the board sustain our reduction, our recommended reduction that accounts for the fact that there was a roof and a foundation prior. It accounts for the fact that it was a slightly older home that we're adding the square footage on. But it also accounts for most importantly what a typical homeowner would pay to have this construction completed. And so if you look to the Revenue and Taxation Code and the assessor handbooks that give guidance on these issues, we have to include all components of costs, which the assessor's costs do. They're based on typical expenses for this type of construction. And I can tell you from my experience over the years, typically when we use these costs and we have a homeowner that uses a contractor, we're very low because we do end up depreciating. And consistently when I've received costs from contractors or from homeowners who used a contractor, they're significantly higher than the value we end up adding. So I believe that these numbers that we're recommending today are very reasonable. The homeowner reported about $34 a square foot. That's unheard of. That would build a storage building, maybe. It wouldn't even build a garage. So I don't know what exactly is missing from those costs, but there's something missing, and I know that because I tested it against what a typical homeowner would pay for this type of construction. And so unless Ms. DePoyen has anything else to add, that would conclude our presentation, and we thank the board and the applicant for their time.
Just a quick question of clarification. Is it possible that rather than something being missing, that it's more related to the fact that maybe the homeowner, the applicant did a good job in value engineering and getting good prices, and buying materials at cost? And did in fact submit all the information? Because I think what sounds like you're implying is that he intentionally is not including information, but it seems like it might also be possible that it just was a great value.
So I agree, and I didn't mean to imply that he was intentionally not giving us everything, but what is missing when I say that is the labor he put into it. There's no costs associated with that. And it sounds like it was a significant portion. So when I say missing, I don't mean it was intentional. I mean that unintentionally, by virtue of him trying to get the best deal possible,
Right.
he's created a situation that no other homeowner could get.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Any other, I think you were done with your summary, right? Okay. And so we'll go to the applicant with a closing summary.
Okay. I don't know where all this homeowner contractor stuff is. I don't get it. Everything, I mean, from every invoice we have to every, the contractor in here, even the invoices that they put in Exhibit B reference that they're working with the contractor on the plumbing, the trusses, I mean, everything from the stock building supply, it was all delivered directly to the home. And with a time and materials basis on a remodel, I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever done a remodel, but before you open up the home, there's a lot of variables that change on that. And I've had 3 different contractors quote the thing, and 2 of the 3 came back and said, look, it's impossible to give you a quote until we open everything up and blah, 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 blah. But basically that they need to open up all the walls, and 2 of the 3 recommended time and materials, which is exactly what we did. That's very common in construction, especially in a remodel. New home is pretty simple. There's a couple of things I'd like to show you guys on exhibit, or page C. It's the 4th page of mine that I submitted. And this is why it was so important. I asked the assessor several times for what their $87 a square foot came into, but like you said, I was very careful in putting this thing together. If an engineer came back and said, hey, you can save $30,000 by not excavating and doing new footings, we did it. And this shows part of it, but on this one at AC 911, if you're looking at the one that starts with C, the very first paragraph in there says, I'm good with a 5-ton system, knowing it's less than what you'd ideally recommend / install. Between a solar system insulating the rooftop, I think, whatever. And basically he wanted me to include this. If it doesn't meet the cooling requirements, that it's not their fault. He wanted that in email and writing. Because if you look down in item down below where he originally wrote me on September 12th, he says, you can rezone your existing system. You're looking at $3,200 versus $14,000 to install a new air conditioning system and furnace and everything else. And I was looking at the guide breakdowns for the costs that they're submitting. And all of those costs are in there: new HVAC, new furnace, new water heater, new all of these things. And so with each quote that the contractor brought back, he said, hey, here's what you can do. Here's a lower cost option and here's a higher cost option. And the things that they're referencing are the highest cost, putting in new HVAC, new water heater, et cetera. And then on the next page, the one that starts with D, or the one that's labeled D, that was from the structural engineer, and I was asking him at the very, very bottom of that page, where it says A-1. I said, David, Darlene, according to the plans, there's almost 800 square feet of empty hallway space in the middle that seems extremely wasteful. Is there anything we can do with it, make it part of the kids' bedrooms, et cetera? In his response up above, he says, if you're open to doing additional structural work on the first floor, this would involve opening the ceilings in the living room and kitchen. We could look at utilizing this space better. That said, you'd be looking at foundation / footing work, which adds up quickly, and we're doing the best work within your budget, et cetera, et cetera. We set a $100,000 budget for the whole thing, and that was with a solar system on top, almost $40,000. Pretty large solar system. But yeah, we were very careful with it. I mean, we got multiple bids. What any homeowner would do, I think, before they took on a project of remodeling their home. And we did things, we changed things at engineering and contractor recommendations to make things more efficient and less expensive to build. And again, this is all all built on top of an existing home. The plumbing was directly underneath everything. The electrical was underneath everything. There was no rough plumbing, no rough electrical. Yeah, I don't know what else to say other than the, if you look at, another example too, is if you look at the very last page, the H for the laundry room, that's a page that they were billing $8,000 or $2,200. And there's literally a water spigot on the wall. Like, there's nothing in there. I don't know what those $2,200 of costs are coming from. I don't know. And I sent an email and asked for that a few times, like, hey, what do you feel we're missing in this, in our invoices and receipts? We went to my wife took a ton of time to go through all of the receipts, document this, put it in a spreadsheet, and I put everything in there. I mean, every single penny, whether it's a Home Depot trip for a pack of screws or whatever, it's in there. But I don't know. I do computers. I don't do construction. It's not my thing. I don't agree with that assessment whatsoever, that it's a lower cost. I feel like anyone in the world could have went to the same contractors we went to, got the same quotes we got, and had them do the work. I was in a different state 800 miles away for probably 95% of that work. So, yeah. The cost savings were, it was such a simple addition. It was bedrooms. It wasn't a living room. It wasn't a kitchen. It wasn't adding a fireplace. It was a very, very, very basic addition of 4 kids' bedrooms that are in the pictures she submitted on her Exhibit B. Nothing crazy.
Well, the assessor's recommending a value of $855. Will you accept that? 855,417.
Yeah, the value I saw on the stipulation offer they had was 90. It's like almost 100,000.
It's 98,000.
90. I don't remember where it was. I saw it somewhere. It was 90 something. Yeah, 97,919. Or total vehicle cost approach is 98,000. Which we just got last week, but that was kind of after we put all this together. And I just asked that it's based on our costs, what we actually put into it, and not worked backwards from an LA guidebook that makes a lot of assumptions, that just a few of them, the air conditioning system and the engineering being built on top of an existing home, makes a tremendous, tremendous difference in cost. I mean, we saw costs of foundation work $20,000, $30,000 that we didn't have to do because of the building on top of the existing home. We would have liked to. It would have been a nicer home. But I don't want to get taxed for what we could have done when we didn't do it. Otherwise, I wish we did it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So we will close the hearing to public testimony, and we have findings of fact that were requested. I think what we'll do is deliberate in closed session, and I'm sure we'll be able to, unless something comes up that we need to clarify, there are pretty good odds that we'll get through that today. And so, Mr. McDonald, you could check in with Mr. Vlahakis in terms of a decision, or if not, a minute order will be sent out shortly after the decision.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks, everyone, for your time.
Thank you.
And I believe, Mr. Vlahakis, we've gone through everything on the agenda. Is that right?
You trailed item 28.
Item
to see if
28.
anyone would appear. The situation has not changed. No one has appeared, so recommendation is to deny item 28 due to lack of appearance.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved by Mr. Crow, seconded by Mr. Curtis, and motion carries on item 28 to deny due to lack of appearance. And so we are adjourned for deliberations at 10 after 11.